Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my channel. Today we're doing a read reading TBR for May 2024. I started a new reading system back in November, and here we are in May, and it is continuing to work really well for me. And if anything, it's only gotten better and more refined. And it's funny, the system itself is kind of complicated to set up, but once in place, it has simplified my reading so much. No longer am I reading multiple books at once. I am just going through a single book at a time. I've made space and planned in all of the challenges, buddy reads, book clubs, everything. And I no longer spend a good portion of my brain power trying to figure out what book to read next. I tell you, I'm simplifying life in every aspect, and this is one of them, and I'm loving it. Let's talk about the books that I read this month. Trials of Empire by Richard Swan, the third and final book in the Empire of the Wolf trilogy. My patron Sonia and I read this one together. While not as good as the second book, in my opinion, missing some of that dry humor that was so good, and a lot of the interpersonal connections that made that one kind of pop, it was still a good story. An interesting culmination of events, some good character moments, some good plot escalation, some good resolution, so overall I'm satisfied with where the series ended. The unconventionality of the way this one was written, from the perspective of this guy's assistant, but the story is really about this lawkeeper. I thought it was well done, and there were a lot of things about the story I thought were well thought out and interesting. I still don't like the supernatural aspect of this story. I've read this just about over a month ago, and it still sits odd with me. The supernatural stuff just doesn't fit with the rest of the stuff that's going on in the story, in my opinion. But that's kind of all that this third book was about. You know, a preference thing, I guess. I like the series well enough, and the author wowed me enough times that I am looking forward to reading anything else he decides to write. Coming in at a 3.5 out of 5 stars. For Read Burn Hoard, I read Moretta by Anne McCaffrey. I believe it's book 7 if you're going chronologically in the Pern works. I did not enjoy this book at all, but thank goodness for all of your comments saying that this was probably one of the weakest ones in the original Pern series. I was still kind of planning on continuing. There's a whole host of classic fantasy series that I would like to continue, and I will probably gradually continue them, especially through challenges and stuff where I'm forced to pick them up. It's one of those things where I would like to have read all of those things, but lack the motivation to incorporate them more into my schedule. In any case, my biggest complaint about it is that none of the action took place on screen. It was kind of all in the periphery, and it dealt with kind of a pandemic, which not my favorite thing to read about right now anyway, but it had really no science fiction elements to it, in my opinion. I wanted more dragons. I wanted more cultural infusion. I wanted more acid rain. That's not really what it is, but you get the idea. So I signed up for a Pern book, and I got poor medical fantasy. When all said and done, I enjoyed the first maybe 25% of the book, so I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 star. I read Sea Watch by Adrian Tchaikovsky, book 6 in the Shadow of the App series. I loved the crap out of this book. It was so good. And here's the thing, I've been just waiting for the world building to dazzle me again. And I had kind of a little bit of a thought that dealing with the water would offer some cool new things. Way more cool things than I signed up for. So many fun, completely out of the element that we've been dealing with so far. Really engaging plot. You gotta kind of just go with it, but it's okay. I love the creature creation. I love the expansion of the world. And I tell you what, I enjoyed Scarab's Path, book 5, but this one is the one that kind of has reinvigorated my excitement for the series. And I'm, eager to continue on. This is a series about humans divided into different factions based on their bug attributes. So you've got the Mantis Kindin, who are exceptionally good fighters. You've got the Beetle Kindin, who are exceptionally good at creating things. And as you can imagine, with a society of all bug people, they don't look like bugs, they're just humans, right? But there's a lot of conflict involved in that. How do they work well together? So this is a rather militaristic fantasy, one of my personal favorite subgenres. But the world building, the creature creation, the character profiles, everything works for me. And I am so excited that I'm continuing on my journey with this one. So this one gets perhaps a 4 out of 5 star. Nothing will compare to the first book for me yet, but this one was so much fun. I read 7 books this month, but 4 of them were for projects that you haven't seen footage on yet, so I'm only reporting on 3. But let's talk about currently reading. Veiled Throne, Book 3 in the Dandelion Dynasty series by Ken Liu. Wall of Storms was a trip. That book, it had everything but the kitchen sink in it, and I don't know how the man does it, but like creating stories on such a wide scope but still managing to focus on the human aspects and like that deep connection to the characters, it's brilliant. This one, I feel like it's more narrow scope and the characters are really the stars of the show, but it's kind of like feels so out of touch with what happened in the last book. There's references to it. It feels like we're starting over again in some points and building up again. I am almost exactly halfway through this one, and it is relying heavily on my investment in the book that came before to get me through it. And not to say that it's not enjoyable or good, because it's a chonker of a book. It's like 1,000 pages long, and I've just breezed my way through half of it. So I enjoy the storytelling, I enjoy the voice, but the subject matter in here, it's just so tangential. However, this author has earned my trust in his ability to take it somewhere meaningful. So I know that all of these pieces that are apparently being laid into place now will have pretty momentous ramifications later, and I've just got to be patient through it. But if I had picked this one up as the first book in the series, then I would have already been like, what's the through line? What are we working towards? What is the point of all of these scenes? I'm sure we'll get there. It's still high quality stuff. I mean, even just like the tangential Ken Liu is still like a 4-star read. So I'm enjoying it. I'll be curious to see where he goes with it as the book progresses. Such a cool series. If you haven't read it yet, it takes a little bit, like it's a different reading experience than anything else I've ever picked up. I think that's to its favor. Very unconventional. And then I've mentioned these so many times, I'll only talk briefly on them. So I'm only reading one book at a time, and I carried these buddy reads over into this month, and luckily my patrons aren't going too terribly fast, so I'm able to catch up. But I'm only including like a chapter or 2 every once in a while to kind of keep myself on pace. Yeah, I started a new reading system without wrapping up prior commitments, and it's biting me in the butt a little bit. But I'm about halfway through both of these books. I'm reading Brissinger with Jen and A Time of Courage with Katie. Brissinger, actually enjoying more than I thought I would. The inner kid in me is really happy that I'm finally going back to the series and reading it. The pacing on this one is kind of atrocious. Like 100 pages, and what did we accomplish? How did we move the plot forward? I really don't think the plot has moved forward yet, and I'm halfway through the book. Just a lot of talk and ramifications and thinking. It's amazing to me that this book took so long to come out, because honestly, there's not much going on. But I'm enjoying it. I mean, the act of reading it, it's got a very nice flow of writing. But even Paolini's To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, there was at least 150 pages in there that I thought he could cut. Still a good story though, like the writing, and at least finally now I am continuing on with it to wrap up like an open-ended thing in my mind. Like, oh, you should get back to that. I think that a lot about a lot of the series that I've tried over the years, and this one is one that I felt bad not getting back to because of how much I enjoyed the first 2 books when they came out, but whatever. Time of Courage? Y'all, Katie's loving it. People who comment on my videos love it. I'm just kind of mediocre with the series. What is different? I want to know if anybody out there like feel the same way I do, that the series is enjoyable but not quite as amazing as the first one. Perhaps. I do know John Gwynne is brilliant at creating momentum and building that within his plot, and it is possible the fact that I am tending to this book not nearly as often as I would normally because of how many other things I've got going on, that stealing that momentum is taking away what makes his writing special. So that could be a factor here. So maybe I need to just move some things around in my schedule and focus on it completely until I finish it, and maybe I'll enjoy it more. But one of the things is, like, there were 80 characters in the first set of 4 books, and I was emotionally connected to quite a few of them. I really liked the characters, and I felt for them. In this series, I have not found a character yet who sparks my interest enough to keep that emotional connection, and so I think that might be a factor as well. And the conflict. Like, I don't know. Moving on. Okay, let's talk about my TBR for the month. Like I said, I'm planning on more reads than this, but there are a lot for the projects that I'm doing, the challenges. Read, Burn, Hoard. So I don't want to tell you what they are before those go live because the discovery process is half the fun. And as far as my main channel is concerned, I'm a full quarter ahead with reading before you'll see it live on the channel with one of the challenges. So it is what it is. It bugs me that I can't show everything. It's like an organizational problem that I can't figure out, but their time will come. So in any case, these are my reading plans for the month. A lot of the main series that I'm super excited to continue are missing because I had to make room for all the challenges and buddy reads and stuff that I've committed to. But I'm okay with it because the stuff that I'm getting into this month, I am so excited for. So Sonia and I are reading Broken God by Gareth Hanrahan, book 3 in the Black Iron Legacy series. And a very helpful commenter told me that this is not actually the conclusion to the series. It's supposed to be like a 5-book series, but for whatever reason, he stopped writing after book 3. Like maybe lost his contract or something, I don't know, but has been writing other series and planning to get back to this one at some point. I mean, I hope he does, but part of me is like, it stole the wind out of my sails a little bit on excitement to continue this book because I was expecting it to be conclusive. I was expecting to be able to like check off the fact that I read something to completion. But in any case, Sonia and I are diving into this within the next week or so, and I am dazzled enough by the world building. The plot is really fast-paced and fun, and just it's so creative. I'm not looking forward to how much it's probably going to cause me to concentrate on it, because it's one where if you miss something, you're likely to get a little lost. But overall, I am looking forward to it. My patrons Alyssa and Sonia and I are reading Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, book 2 in the Fourth Wing series. There were a lot of things I liked about the first book, primarily the dragons. I thought the dragons were so cool. I really enjoyed the training sequences. I enjoyed the fast pace of the story. And it's a school setting. I mean, a lot of really good things working for it. Will all of those things be heavily present in Iron Flame? I'm not sure. That's the thing I'm a little worried about. Like, many of the draws to the story for me, perhaps those things won't be as prevalent in this book. Will I like it as much? I'm not sure. Also in the first book, the character did spend a lot of time thinking about relationships. I could have used just slightly more time thinking about dragons, because there were moments where you kind of forgot she even had a dragon because she was so fixated on the boys. I'd be curious to see how much of her brain power in this one is on boys and how much is on the conflict. Yeah. We shall see. If it's a good balance of both, it could be okay. My patrons Dave and Alyssa and I are reading John Scalzi's Head On, book 2 in the Lock-In duology. These are fun little sci-fi mysteries. Another pandemic-related one. Like, this disease spread throughout the world and killed a lot of people, but left a lot of people locked in. So their bodies are frozen, but their minds are active. And society has developed technology to give these people a form of mobility through kind of androids, if you will. And so you've got that premise, that groundwork, and now you're taking one of those locked-in people and having them help solve crimes. The first book was a lot of fun, a really quick read. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I'm such a mystery snob, but it was a good enough mystery that I spent the book just enjoying it rather than criticizing the fact that I could see what was coming. Because there are some mysteries where it's so plainly obvious that I lose enjoyment, I lose investment. But these ones, they were well done enough that I trusted the process and I didn't spend hardly any brain power thinking about where it might be going. I just enjoyed reading it, if that makes sense. So, really looking forward to this one. I have no idea if he's planning more in the series, but there are only 2 out right now and this is the last one. So, yay, series completion. I am finally getting around to Foul Days by Genoveva Dimova. Book 1 in the Witch's Compendium of Monsters. I've talked about this in every video. It keeps getting pushed back because it's not the highest priority thing. It's not time sensitive until June when it comes out. So if I can at least read it by May, I'll be doing good. I'm really excited for this book. Too many things going on. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the things that I am reading, I'm trying to wrap up series that I've already started, specifically for high priority ones. But then I get myself into these projects and the read burn hordes and the book clubs where I start new things, and so it's a never-ending process. But at least everything I have here is incredibly high priority. So looking forward to that one. And then last but not least, Patreon Book Club, we are reading City of Last Chances by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I know nothing about this book, and I'm okay not knowing anything about this book. There are 2 other companion novels in the same world. I am slowly working my way through all of this man's works. I'm really excited this one got picked for book club. I've heard good things about it, and I tend to mostly enjoy everything I read from him, if not absolutely love. There have been some solid 5-star books on there for me. And what's more, for book club, a lot of us are signed up to read it so far, and I think it's going to be a really fun one. So looking forward to that. Generally speaking, I'm loving most of the things that I'm picking up these days, and that's because I'm prioritizing the best books first. Read the best books first because you might not have a chance to read them all, and life's too short to read books you're not enjoying. Everything I'm doing to simplify my reading life and make it more fun comes down to those 2 mantras. Let me know, what books have you been enjoying lately? Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.